Hello everyone and welcome. In this video I will not only be reviewing but also analyzing, yes, analyzing director Yargos Lanthimos' newest film, Bugonia. Came out in 2025. This film is an English language remake of Save the Green Planet by Korean director Jang Joon-hwan. Do hope I'm pronouncing that right. Now, fans of Lanthimos may know him from his work in dark, absurdist comedy, and this is no different. Throughout the entire film, I was disturbed, saddened, intrigued, all at once. Just a quick note to get it out of the way, is this film good, and is it even worth the price of admission? Absolutely not. This film, it's not good. It's great. The film is stunning and totally worth the price of admission 2 or 3 times over. I definitely plan on watching it again in theaters. Easily one of the best films of 2025, and I was privileged to see it. Yes, privileged. Lanthimos has solidified himself as one of my favorite directors. Take it from someone who's indecisive. I mean, for me now to have a solid choice when asked who is my favorite director, it speaks volumes. Now don't get me wrong, there are some issues with the film that I'll go over later, but first I'll review the film at its base before going into an in-depth analysis, which of course that analysis will contain spoilers. I will warn you beforehand. I actually didn't want to include spoilers in this film since it's so awesome and it deserves its own experience. You need to watch it blind, but yeah, I'll go ahead and notify you beforehand. So here we go. The film, as mentioned earlier, is directed by Yargos Lanthimos, of course, and the screenplay adaptation was helmed by Will Tracy, who has had a rather small and mixed filmography. However, he does show some promise since he was on the team that made The Menu. Everything else I either haven't seen or just saw average review. Thankfully, that genius carried over into this film, so good job, Will Tracy. The film was surprisingly produced by Emma Stone, among others, which tells me she truly enjoyed the base draft, enough so to even put up her own money to make sure the film got made. It's always nice seeing that kind of passion and dedication, especially when it translates into financial commitment for the sake of art. The film stars Emma Stone as Michelle Fuller, Jesse Plemons as Teddy, Aidan Delbus as Dawn. Emma Stone is likely the best working female actress in the industry. You can really tell that she puts her all into this role, as she does with most roles. She has such a noticeable face. She's so famous that actors unfortunately fall into typecasting or just simply play themselves in films like Jack Black, Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson, or Kevin Hart. But in all her work, I see a character. I don't see Stone. Jesse Plemons delivers an unsettling character who unfortunately is somewhat typecast as a creepy-looking guy. It's a little bit villainous, he's unlikable, and it unsettles you from his appearance alone. That being said, he acts very well here. His performance is top-notch, the writing helps him, but boy does he take it and run with it all the way to the finish line. Now, someone who stole the show, especially in one crucial scene, newcomer Aidan Delbus. This is his first role ever in Hollywood and in his life, period. It just so happened to be his breakout role. This lad is 19 years old and was in high school. He submitted an audition tape that was seen by Stone, who was quoted in seeing that his presence is magnetic. He himself is on the autism spectrum. His involvement in the film was kept quiet until close to its release, and I gotta say, I was a little surprised to find that he was in fact autistic, since the disability portrayed on screen was done so well that I was impressed that someone who I assumed was not on the spectrum could portray it so convincingly. But that's the problem right there. You know, I advocate for actors who are true to the character being played, and I was so accustomed to seeing disrespectful portrayals that I assumed this was a neurotypical actor simply acting very well. However, he is on the spectrum, and I was just surprised. I was taken aback. He did a great job anyways and is a scene stealer on the screen. What's dope about this film is that I love movies that can do a lot with little. To see this film mainly feature these 3 actors in 1 or 2 main locations and pull off such wildly intense, humorous dynamic, it speaks volumes to their dedication to the craft and to the team who made this. Cinematography was helmed by Robbie Ryan. It's done very well. You know, all shots help establish a tone and meaning. There are creative and artistic choices that really paid off. The visuals are captivating, like some sort of psychological trap, daring you to decode its absurdity. In a way, I myself was uncomfortable throughout, and it did feel like I was dared to watch it. But thankfully, my curiosity got the better of me, so I kept on watching. Editing was done by Yorgos oh man, this is going to be a tough one. Editing was done by Yorgos Mavrovsardis, who has worked extensively with Lanthimos. They coincidentally share the same first name. The film's editing and pacing are excellent, you know, never bored, which can happen with some films of this runtime, but this one keeps you engaged and never out of breath. Good job there. The musical score was done by Jerskin Fendrix, who was praised by many online film critics for his role in producing this film's music. Rightfully so. It's masterfully done. It consists mainly of loud wind instruments that help manifest an ominous tone tone, along with awkward silences that add tension. It is a chaotic symphony that made you feel very paranoid throughout, very, very emotionally disorienting. I mean, it's not background music, but rather another psychological tool to make you feel. The film had a budget of about 45 to 55 million and only made about 3 to 7 million at the box office as of the recording of this video, which I gotta say is a shame. That likely doesn't account for advertising costs that I've seen estimates range from 20 to 30 million on top of that, making it unlikely to return profit for investors. This potentially hurts the possibility of films like this being made in the future. I'm saddened to even think such a thought. Although my review isn't complete, I still implore you all to watch it, not just for your own enjoyment, but for the sake of more art like this being made. Now that's it for the general review. The film gets an A+, in most all categories. There are some errors that I mentioned we'll go over in the spoiler analysis section, which begins now. For those of you leaving due to spoilers ahead, thank you for watching up until now. I'll see you later. Be sure to pause and come back to it once you're ready. Okay, so the film starts off with ongoing narration by Jesse Plemons' character, Teddy, who first and foremost shows his appreciation for bees. He quickly mentions their pollination process is the nicest and purest form of sex because, and I quote, "no one gets hurt." My detective instincts kicked in, and I scribbled notes in the dark theater like a blind person reading Braille. I knew sex would be an underlying theme throughout, and boy, did I catch the real McCoy. I was right, but more on that later. Soon after, we find Jesse Plemons' character, Teddy, living on a bee farm with his cousin, who is on the autism spectrum. From the film's score, cinematography, and writing, you can tell that their relationship, though generally normal, has some unsettling undertones. For instance, we get an odd vibe from Teddy, especially since he talks about aliens with such conviction, believing they exist and are harming humans. He seems to project these beliefs onto his cousin. It appears to be a toxic, emotionally abusive relationship, which is sad from beginning to end, and that comes into play later. We're soon introduced to Emma Stone's character, Michelle Fuller, a stereotypical girl boss liberal archetype. We can tell that she's a liberal because she's seen initially promoting a diversity training video for the large-scale pharmaceutical company that she heads. Now, during the film, she uses a lot of annoying, inhuman, detached HR speak that anyone who's ever worked in an office before will recognize and hate. It reeks of facade. The intentions aren't clear, though it's implied that the company comes first above all else, even personal matters. This comes up again later. We're then showed Teddy and Dawn talking on their patio, where Jesse tells Aiden to carry out this plan, of which we're not entirely clued in yet. To be free from all psychic compulsions, one of which is sex. See, I was right, it came again later, but more so throughout the film. So Teddy's character somehow gets a hold of chemical castration medication and convinces his cousin to take it, even after Dawn expresses that he does not want to. He planned on having children and starting a family. He takes it anyway, to my disturbance and the disturbance of many audience members I saw this with. It seems so cruel to convince someone on this autism spectrum to take such a long-lasting, permanent drug when they're not in the right mental state to consent to something so intense. Teddy is clearly taking advantage of the weak and disabled. It is similar to modern-day leftists and liberals who advocate for children to take puberty blockers and transition at a young age without fully understanding the gravity of the decision. Not fully stated or implied in the film, but from the start, this film covers many societal topics, politics and the such, including drug abuse, sexual abuse, social media, corporate exploitation, and the resulting aftermath. Moving on, we find out that their plan is to kidnap the CEO of this pharmaceutical company and force her to admit that she is an alien sent here to destroy Earth and to have it so that all her associates leave the planet, thereby saving it. Yeah. It's that fucking crazy. One comedic aspect of this film is that we obviously know she's not an alien. So to have these absolute wackadoos kidnap her is absurdist and hilarious. Not to mention, after their successful kidnapping, they have her undergo a cleansing ritual while she's unconscious, supposedly preventing her from contacting her mothership. This includes shaving off all of her hair from the top of her head and lathering her body in anti-itch cream. I gotta say, I was laughing so hard at this. Say at one point they shaved her hair to kind of look like a middle-aged balding man where, you know, all the hair on the top of his head is there, but on the sides and back it's still there. And if they had left it that way throughout the film, it would have been so damn funny. But no, they end up shaving it all off. Moving on, they present her with the reason for her kidnapping, much to her dismay and disgust. Prior to and during this initial interaction, we see Dawn showing signs of hesitancy in carrying out the plan. He believes she's human at a deep level, but just not alien. Jesse, on the other hand, assures him otherwise and commands him to hold a loaded shotgun at her, which of course is more of an absurdist form of dark humor. I mean, waking up after an abduction in some weirdo's basement only to have what appears to be a mentally disabled person holding a shotgun on you, I mean, that's got to be one of the most fucked up, hilarious situations imaginable. Now, a little bit of a time jump, we find out a little later that Teddy's mother went comatose after undergoing some sort of treatment therapy that was run by the company. They offer little to appease the situation, just really to cover the medical bills, which is fine and all, but you'd rather have your mother awake, alive, and healthy than just having some medical bills covered. This is likely the base reason Teddy kidnaps the CEO. He feels that she's responsible for his mother's condition. Coincidentally, Teddy works for the same company as a box loader. He ships off the very drugs that likely hurt people like his mother. The film offers strong commentary on corporations not caring about the people they harm in pursuit of profit, and how we're all slaves to the system in one way or another. Very well done. Soon after, Teddy is biking down the road when a police officer pulls him over, and you gotta be thinking, oh boy, oh shit, this is the end of him, man. This is the long arm with the law got you on the shoulder. The cops have found out about the kidnapping. But no. This cop pulls him over for another reason. It turns out the officer knows Teddy and is an old babysitter and wants to apologize for how he treated him when he was younger. No doubt alluding to some form of sexual assault or some sort of abuse. So my earlier assumption that Teddy doesn't enjoy sex stems from past trauma inflicted by his former babysitter, now a law enforcement officer, and it's sad to think that someone with a history of sexual assault is now in a position of power, another societal jab at those who abuse authority. He apologizes, but this interaction just seems off from beginning to end. Teddy then returns to his captive alien, only to find that she's delivered an insincere recording meant to serve as her admission of being an alien sent here to destroy Earth. He gets very upset at this, and they argue. In this argument, she accuses him of being trapped in a social media echo chamber fed by algorithms that reinforce his delusion that she and others are aliens sent here to purge humanity. He counters this intelligently, though perhaps delusionally to some, by saying that those are all well-prepped talking points designed to make someone seem crazy rather than actually disproving their beliefs with facts. Everyone is always called crazy about something new until it turns out to be true or they pull it off. For instance, if someone says they want to jump the Grand Canyon off on a motorcycle, everyone calls them crazy. But if they pull it off, not so crazy anymore. They argue further before the altercation becomes physical. He holds back his strength and only slaps her across the face for calling him mentally ill. They leave her in darkness. The score, lighting, and cinematography in this shot are so masterfully done. I mean, legitimately eye-catching. Some stuff happens before they return, and this time they mean business. At least Teddy does. Dawn is somewhat convinced she's not an alien and shows extreme empathy, not wanting for her to be hurt. She senses they're serious. I mean, after all, she was slapped hard as shit last time and decides to play into their game. She gives a desperate, well-done monologue that's claiming she is an alien and begs them to continue without violence or her death. It's a pathetic plea that falls on deaf ears. You can tell she puts effort into it, trying to avoid pain, but unfortunately it doesn't work. Soon after, they tie her up to a chair and gag her, and it's at this point she's screaming and admitting openly that she's an alien. Of course, more dark, absurdist humor. Imagine being so mentally broken, or at least given no other option, but to scream with extreme conviction that you are in fact an alien sent here to kill humans just to appease your mentally disturbed captors. Sad, funny, and kinda hot all in one. She's screaming, but they carry on and put an electrocution device around her head and begs for mercy, but it is ignored, and they turn up the electricity. She writhes in agony. What's done so masterfully here in this scene is that we only hear her screams. The camera never shows her face. Only shots of the men, the device, and her thighs jumping as each notch intensifies the electrocution. The screams are incredibly well done by Stone and the score and editor. They're blood-curdling and made everyone in the audience wildly uncomfortable. The scene continues until Teddy can't crank the dial any further. The power breaker shuts off, and a hilarious dialogue ensues between Teddy and Dawn. Dawn yells about how crazy this all is and that they could have killed her. Teddy responds with a statement that alludes to him having done this before, to which Dawn screams, "Before?" in bewilderment. I laughed super hard at this in the theater. In fact, I think I was the only one laughing. Perhaps everyone else in the film, the theater, didn't really know or kind of forgot this was supposed to be a dark comedy. Moving on, we hear Jessie say that she wasn't supposed to survive the electrocution, that her ability to withstand such shock proves not only that she is an alien, but that oddly she is the nobility of her race. He unties her and begs for her forgiveness before another iconic scene ensues. She's given a shower and food, though still restrained at the dinner table. The dialogue between Emma Stone and Teddy is some of the best acting and writing I've seen in a long time. They talk about pleasant things at first, like the weather and whatnot. The dinner seems to be going swimmingly, until the topic of bees comes up. Stone's character, Michelle Fuller, mentions how she admires their ability to work and keep their heads down without pride or piety. This causes Teddy to be upset. upset as he sees those traits as the qualities of cattle, exactly what elite corporate overlords want, obedient workers who stay in line. From here, the conversation escalates. Stone's character actively remembers Teddy's mother and that she's one of the failed patients during this drug treatment therapy and finally makes the connection. He's enraged at even the mention of her name. After further tension, he violently attacks her. I mean, keep in mind, during this lengthy, intense conversation, Dawn is politely asking to go to the bathroom, which Teddy denies. This is one of the many aspects of the relationship that reveals that it's not healthy, but a toxic power dynamic. Teddy's character presumably feels he has no control over his own life, something that many people can relate to, but he acts out in a cruel, controlling way towards his disabled cousin, and it makes him deeply unlikable. After all, Dawn is simply asking to use the restroom. He's not asking for the moon, but to Teddy, he might as well be. After the attack, we get a back and forth over who's in control of the fight. Satisfyingly, Emma Stone's character gets the drop on Teddy and chokes him with some sort of fabric, screaming in his face something along the lines of, "You're a loser and I am a winner. This is life." Which, I mean, not humble whatsoever, but it's fitting. I mean, through his abuse, and of course not to his fault, he chooses to become a bad man. Instead of learning and growing, he chooses to become a shut-in, conspiracy-obsessed incel who abuses his disabled cousin, while Stone's character, for whatever she's experienced in life, became a powerful pharmaceutical CEO. You shouldn't treat people below you as cattle, even though some people of certain groups, religious groups, etc., they might believe they're better than everyone else, but that's never the right way to think, and that's never the way to treat one another. Dawn enters and bashes her in the head with the butt of the shotgun, ending the fight. She is restrained and unconscious in the basement, with Dawn tasked with guarding her, a mistake Teddy will come to soon regret. Very soon after, the same police officer who pulled over Teddy's character a little earlier in the film visits for a wellness check and to investigate the missing CEO, since her phone pinged a nearby cell tower. The officer further apologized to Jesse over a slice of coconut cake. Okay guys, little known fact about me, I hate coconut. Water, flakes, cake, anything. But I digress. Anyway, it seems Jesse is getting away with it. He even comfortably asked the officer to check out his beehive after accepting the apology. Now, it's worth mentioning, and something that will be brought up later, during the apology conversation that is shared between the police officer and Teddy, the police officer mentions, "I don't know, man, sometimes I drive by here and I get the feeling something really fucked up is going on." Which I have to say is a very strange thing for a police officer to say and have that intuition, not to mention to say that to the homeowner himself to their face and have it so that Teddy's character, he actually didn't react to that. He didn't respond by saying, no, everything's fine, everything's great. And if he did so very plainly, he just brushing it off, but I digress. However, during this time, Stone's character and Dawn are conversing about the severity of the situation. She gaslights him into thinking the police have won over Teddy and will burst through the door at any moment to arrest them. She pleads with him that if he helps her escape, she'll work with the police to pardon him. He accepts after lengthy coercion. But he's not helping her escape the situation, he's trying to escape his own life. She doesn't know this, but during his monologue, we as the audience realize he doesn't want to escape the police, he wants to escape the life he's been living. Once she agrees, he asks her for one favor. She agrees. He asks her, "Tell Jesse that I love him and that he's sorry." Immediately, he turns the shotgun on himself and unfortunately dies, to her and the audience's horror. When Teddy's character returns, he yells at her, and she scolds him for what he did to Dawn, telling him that he forced Dawn to crack and take his own life. That it wasn't her doing, which is true. She simply offered to help and get him a better sentencing, while he meant something entirely different. At this point, the plot thickens tremendously, and the stakes are at an all-time high. Teddy is close to killing her, but she then reverts back to claiming she is an alien and convinces him that the bottle of antifreeze in the back of her car is a decoy in which contains the cure to wake his mother from her coma. She convinces him to bike all the way back to the facility where the mother is being cared for and inject the antifreeze into her IV bag. Sick shit, man. Before he leaves, he dislocates her knee with the butt of the shotgun for Dawn. While he's biking there, she searches for a way out of the basement after retrieving the keys from Dawn's pocket, only to make a shocking discovery in a secret room. Teddy has killed what appear to be dozens of people without Dawn's knowledge in similar fashion, trying to find out if they're aliens. Multiple victims with shaved heads, lathered in anti-itch cream, electrocuted. She finds severed body parts in jars along with all his research. Meanwhile, Teddy arrives at the facility and injects his mother with antifreeze into her IV bag, and she dies. When he returns, he's ready to kill her. But, in similar fashion, she scolds him for all his failed attempts and calls him a psycho loser. Then she admits she lied and once again claims she's an alien. and he waits for her story. Plot-wise, I see why this makes sense, but realistically, I can't see a character pausing to hear yet another one of her lies, especially after she indirectly caused her cousin's passing and directly his own mother's passing within the span of an hour. Another mistake in the film, during this monologue where she admits to her alien master plan, she is seen to walking at length without acknowledging her recently dislocated kneecap. He somehow believes her and agrees to go to her office, where she claims there's a teleporter in her mothership in the form of a closet. Now they make the drive to the office, everyone sees her return with this strange man, and security, I gotta say security, they call the police immediately without alarming them directly. They finally reach her office and she stalls for as long as possible until Teddy reveals he has a bomb strapped to his chest, which ups the ante tremendously. Once he enters the closet, however, the IED explodes prematurely due to body heat or faulty wiring, according to the paramedic who rescues her from the blast. Stone's character confirms through multiple inquiries that Teddy is in fact dead. After getting the confirmation, she somehow escapes medical attention and a volley of officers following the ambulance. She manages with a dislocated knee to run all the way back to her office and use the closet as a teleporter to return to her mothership. That's another continuity issue that bugs me, but hey, the film is good, I kinda let it slide. Still, what's odd that none of the cars following her stopped or intervened, or that any of the officers tackled her at the crime scene for tampering with any evidence. So it is, the conspiracy nut and Dawn were right. They were so close, but no cigar. Which unravels the greatest twist of all, and what likely has this film blacklisted in Hollywood, since it somehow resonates with political centrists, right-wingers, and far-right individuals who've long been portrayed as crazy conspiracy theorists since Project Mockingbird began in the 1940s and continued through the 60s and beyond. Now keep in mind, this is an absurdist dark comedy, but that doesn't mean it lacks meaning. Comedy is the one true weapon the masses have against inhumane corporate overlords, because comedy is unpredictable. In their world, they want nothing but pure control and predictability. So humor, being the opposite, really riles them up. The film covers many topics: drug abuse, sexual abuse, the resulting trauma, social media echo chambers breeding extremists, corporations exploiting the working class until revolt brews, and the inability to grow from trauma. You name it. Before I wrap it up, the film ends with her alien race speaking in their native tongue, deciding that humanity has had its time. It's run its course to either improve or revolt against tyrannical rulers. But that time and time again they have passed, and they have failed to maintain peace and are voted into extinction. Stone's character pops the bubble on a flat earth, implying that those in Abrahamic religions who believe in a flat earth were also right all along, causing all of humanity to perish, leaving the earth barren until the next intelligent species evolves, and they too will be tested. Similar to the Great Filter Theory, which states that in order for an intelligent species to evolve, conquer the stars, or achieve immortality, it must first pass the Great Filter. What that filter is remains unknown. Many theorize it's humanity's inability to improve or overthrow its rulers to usher in an era of peace, love, and progress. Without that, humanity will likely die from its own greed in the coming millennia. Overall, the film is incredibly complex and a spectacle to watch, a privilege as mentioned earlier. The film did a terrible job at being a dark comedy, a main criticism I had, since in my opinion, there were only 2 or 3 genuinely funny scenes in the entire film, and mind you, this film runs almost 2 hours. That's a long runtime. I mean, it is intended and labeled as a dark comedy, so failing to produce consistent laughs throughout the film is somewhat of a miss. And let me be clear, I really hope Lanthimos doesn't imply that the individual on the autism spectrum who passes is meant to be funny. I mean, if he does, I'd lose a little bit of respect and understanding of his craft. Now, if the kid had bent over to pick up a Twix bar or a Snickers bar and accidentally blew off his head in the process, then hell yeah, that shit would have been funny, man. But the way it played out, sad shit. Overall, the film is incredible, a spectacle to watch. I'm not gonna glaze it into infinity here. It's just one of the better movies of 2025. I'm always gonna have it in my back pocket. It's like, yeah, this is one of the better films I've seen. I've also really enjoyed his past work. The Lobster was something I saw one time randomly. Really good stuff. I really appreciate you guys watching. If you held out this long, that you're awesome. I really appreciate it. Don't forget to like for more videos, subscribe for more content, and let me know in the comments what you guys think about this film. If you've seen it, if you intend to see it, what you think about it in general. Other than that, I appreciate you guys. Take care. I'll see you in the next one.